I remember when I first laid eyes upon her, a beautiful young girl, not much older than 17, restrained and in pain. Her long dark flowing hair covered her battered face. She put up a fight before being forcefully attached to a bed and wheeled in. Then, a large amount of static crackled out of the microphone into the empty room in which we were all seated. We could not help but allow our eyes to drift over the beaten body of the young girl, despite our orders being against doing so.
Jane, do you understand why you are here before us today?
Jane spat at the ground, unable to form a sentence.
You are the correct blood type, Jane. The future of medical science depends on the blood you have flowing through your veins.
Me and my colleagues all shared the same shocked expression of clear terror. All this to a girl, for a type of blood. We could not resist our orders, however. We knew what would happen otherwise.
Now send her back to block C2, Jacob and Adam.
I watched as two men wheeled her into the distance down the long, white corridor. I couldn't let this happen. I felt a sharp pain jabbing in my throat. The feeling of seeing this girl die for a test was far greater than I could handle. I had to escape. I just had to wait for the cameras to turn, just for my time to run down that corridor after them. I saw my time go and slipped away, my heart beating faster and faster each time I took a step closer to the corridor entrance. I slipped in just as the camera shot back to face towards where I'd just left. I was so close to death, it was far too uncomfortable. However, I must continue to make my way to the lab, which I remembered to be C2. I heard the screech of my shoes as they rubbed off the polished floor. I almost slipped and slammed into the ground. I'd never been any further than B6 before. I wondered what was in the C block. Despite not knowing what lay ahead of me, I knew where it was. I continued down a longer corridor where I began to realise it wasn't so clean. Water was dripping and I noticed the doors had been kicked in as if someone had forced their way out. Almost vomited for the smell. What the hell was it? Then, I noticed blood splashed against the door and a large hole smashed into it. Flies circled the room making a faint buzzing noise. What I saw made me likely never to forget that day. Mutilated corpses. Perhaps 2, maybe 3 weeks old. Strange pipes hooked up to a chair where a body which had been drained was seated on. 2 scientists were dead, the cold blood staining the dirty white floor. I wiped my mouth, feeling the urge to vomit as I slowly began to squeeze back through the hole in the door. Was this why I wasn't allowed in this block? Were these other test subjects with other blood types which perhaps failed? I began walking again till I came to C2, which was quite a lot cleaner and appeared to be less tampered with. So I continued until I reached a dead end. I heard a faint muttering behind a nearby door. I got on my hands and knees and stared through the keyhole into what appears to be just darkness, until a sudden light appeared in the corner of the room. It hit me right in the eye, making me flinch. After rubbing my eyes, I looked to see Adam and Jacob in a room with Jane. They attached her to wires of many lengths and colours, some of which I couldn't recognise despite my many years of loyal work for the science lab. They began extracting blood, or I assume that's what the dark red liquid moving up the pipe was. Then I noticed another pipe, which appeared to be pumping a certain liquid into her. A deep purple liquid, nothing like blood. Were they planning on taking out her blood and using this fluid as an alternative? Her eyes began turning white and soulless. I just assumed she'd died, and I almost broke down and cried right there. Until she twitched. How the hell could she still be alive? The clear white eyes began turning into an evil black as she began to wake again. What the fuck was happening to her? I did not have a clue. I burst through the door attempting to stop the madness. I gripped Adam's throat and made him choke. Then I felt 2 heavy weights on my shoulders when I realised it was Jacob trying to push me to the ground and then attempting to restrain me with some sort of leather strap. I kicked away, pushing him to the side of the chair Jane was on, when suddenly Jane started to scream and began snapping some of the leather straps that bound her to the bed. Then the final strap came undone, and she went straight for Jacob. He was the first victim. I still had Adam after me, beating me with a blunt object. I felt blood trickle down onto my back. I began to black out, until Adam began floating and was flung into the wall, like a rag doll. Blood and vials with various liquids splashed everywhere. Adam was out for the count. I screamed out for help as I turned towards Jacob to see his skin removed. However, his eyes remained and a crooked smile on his otherwise mutilated face. Then she was gone. Jane was gone. I screamed out for her, and when I heard a voice, as if planted into my head by some kind of psychic power.
I am Jane. Thank you for saving me. However, these people made me better, made me stronger. They told me of my objective. I shall kill him.
Kill who? I shouted.
I shall wait in the darkness of every human's house. I shall prey upon the weak, for I am the Alpha. They are the weak. Ever thought you saw something in the dark? Well, you were right. I'm coming for him. I'm coming for Dieth, as those are my orders.
And with that, the voice faded away, and I was alone upon rubble, tears streaming down my face. The bloodshed today was like none other.